Since ancient times, this country has been called the Land of Fire. There are places here where natural gas bursts out from under the earth, mixing with water and soil before exploding into flames.
It's a miracle of nature. There's nothing like it anywhere in the world. Our country is called the Land of Fire.
The first fortress towers appeared here on the Caspian shore in the 12th century. People built their houses inside the walls. Today, this ancient district of Baku is on UNESCO's World Heritage List.
The aura of this place is so amazing. It's so easy to spend hours here, just breathing this air that blows in from the north and taking in the scenery.
Since gaining independence in 1991, Azerbaijan has gone through 2 difficult decades. It has overcome political turmoil after nearly descending into civil war and built a new basis for its economy.
So restore me, darling, stay forevermore. Gotta need you. I need you. I'm running, I'm scared now.
Did you know that we had an underwater city?
No, I didn't.
They found ancient rocks.
Eldar Gasimov and Nigar Jamal are now 2 of the most well-known people in Azerbaijan.
There's nothing left for me to say.
These completely self-taught artists managed to exceed all expectations by taking first prize at the Eurovision Song Contest. Lately, Eldar and Nigar have trouble avoiding fans seeking autographs or taking pictures with them.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
We have some guests from Iran. They're Iranian Azerbaijanis. Stand back so they all fit in the frame.
The day when the Azerbaijani duet emerged victorious, people flooded onto the streets of Baku.
Yes, it was a big celebration. It would have been really interesting to see how people reacted in front of their TVs at home when they learned that we had won.
People were waving the Azerbaijani flag from their car sunroofs. It was marvelous.
We are so happy that Azerbaijan won. Azerbaijan has made its mark.
The Republic of Azerbaijan is located on the southwestern shore of the Caspian Sea. Azerbaijan borders Russia and Georgia to the north, Armenia to the west, and Iran to the south. It separated from the USSR in 1991. Before the breakup, there was an ethnic conflict with Armenia. One of the most tragic events in Azerbaijan's history was when troops were deployed in the capital Baku in 1990. At that time, Azerbaijan had a national liberation movement called the Popular Front. The movement had staged mass protests around the country, seizing government buildings. When the situation got out of control, the authorities introduced a state of emergency on almost all of Azerbaijan's territory. On January the 20th, 1990, tanks entered Baku to restore order. During the turmoil, 137 people were killed. Ilhan Alafadiev's brother, Ilham, was among the first victims.
After they'd launched a flare, the tanks came in and started firing. I noticed that Ilham was not by my side. He went down to the square to meet the tanks. He raised his arms up and said, "Don't fire." He said, "These people are unarmed. For God's sake, don't shoot."
Ilham was mortally wounded. Sometime later, his pregnant wife, Fariza, took her own life. All that their relatives have left of them are family photos.
This is my brother and Fariza at their wedding. It's when Ilham was putting the ring on her finger.
Everyone who died in Baku in 1990 is buried at the city's Alley of Heroes. Ilham Alahverdiev rests next to his wife. His mother and brother often come to the memorial cemetery.
My son, your dreams remained unfulfilled.
Every year, on the last day of June, Azerbaijanis commemorate the dead couple. Ayas Mutalibov, who was elected the first president of independent Azerbaijan, ruled for 2 years. During his term in office as head of a new state, he was faced with many tough problems.
I witnessed that period. Back then, all I could think about was, how are we going to survive? How are we going to pay for grain and everything else we were getting from Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan? We didn't have our own gold, or foreign reserves, or even a currency of our own. We had absolutely nothing.
Today, Azerbaijan's international reserves amount to $35 billion US. The country gets its money from hydrocarbon exports. It is estimated that the oil and gas supplies here will last for 100 years. The outskirts of Baku are home to the world's largest oil and gas terminal.
Do I have permission to open the pipe?
It transports Caspian oil to the Mediterranean through the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline. It is a boon for both Azerbaijan and the European consumers at the other end who buy Caspian oil.
This is the BTC pipeline, which starts at Sangachal, goes through Georgia and ends up in Turkey, Ceyhan port, and this is the biggest pipeline in the Caspian region with the capacity of 1.2 million barrels a day.
It is commonly acknowledged that Azerbaijan owes its successful oil and gas development to the so-called Contract of the Century. It was signed in 1994 by then-President Gaydar Aliyev, father of the present leader of Azerbaijan. He invited about a dozen of the world's largest oil and gas corporations, including BP, Exxon, Lukoil and Amoco, to develop Azerbaijan's oil fields in the Caspian Sea. Nowadays, Azerbaijan is #1 in the Commonwealth of Independent States in terms of per capita investment.
The government is doing all it can these days to diversify oil development, production and transportation, so as to cater to multiple customers. As a result, we have great prospects.
German reporter Hans-Jürgen Bethke has lived and worked in Azerbaijan for 20 years. He has witnessed all the changes modern-day Azerbaijan has gone through.
Now Azerbaijan has really tremendous income each year and soaring income like that. And what they can do right now to put, I think, forward ambitious aims and very rational policy.
One of Azerbaijan's major interests is in foreign investment and seeks to provide favourable conditions for foreign businesses. In the city of Gabala, 300 kilometres north of Baku, a piano factory can be found. Coming from a family of piano makers, Hans Leferink has shifted the production of his time-honoured Beltman pianos from Germany to Azerbaijan. He claims his business is the largest of its kind in all of Asia.
This model piano is a 121 upright piano. We have 230 strings, more or less. Every string is different as the other. The length, the diameter, and is made by hand.
Beltman used to be a European brand for over 100 years, until Hans Leferink left his home country for Azerbaijan and took his entire business with him.
If you hear the word Azerbaijan, you automatically will think on Beltman pianos, because as my grandmother used to say always, if you say A, in this case Azerbaijan, then you have to say B either, and that is Beltman pianos.
Downtown Baku. The Caspian Sea used to lap alongside the capital's fortress and old city until it eventually withdrew, leaving the fortress walls exposed. Every day, the keeper of this architectural relic climbs the ancient fortifications that have endured numerous sieges.
This wall was erected in the 12th century by Shah Akhsetan I, who did a lot to fortify the city. Inner city Baku remained an impregnable fortress that even the Mongols failed to conquer in the 13th century.
That was when the Mongol army encountered the so-called liquid fire, which the defenders of Baku would douse their enemies' heads with. It took scientists a couple of centuries to figure out that it was simply burning oil.
Here we can see the openings that were used to pour oil down the wall. Then the entire wall would be engulfed in flames, and it would be impossible to climb.
Old Baku is considered a cultural treasure and is protected by UNESCO. When night falls, the look of the city changes dramatically as cafes and live music halls open. Music connoisseurs come here to enjoy Azerbaijan's very own brand of jazz. The music combines Eastern tunes with elements of the Western musical tradition. Jazz evolved in Azerbaijan in the 1930s. It was prohibited during the Soviet times, but today it is hugely popular once more.
It brings harmony. It puts you in a certain mood and evokes many colors. Each person hears the music in different ways. Azerbaijanis consider jazz their own. It's their national music style.
Bahruz Hussein-Zadeh was brought to Baku when he was a child. 20 years ago, his family fled from the atrocities of the Nagorno-Karabakh war. According to Baku records, almost 1 million Azerbaijanis were forced to flee Karabakh and Armenia. The ticking time bomb of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict started with the dawn of the Soviet Union, when Armenia and Azerbaijan became part of the USSR. For a long time, there was no question about who controlled the region. The war between the two states over Nagorno-Karabakh started at the end of the 1980s, after Moscow loosened its grip on the republics. Today, Nagorno-Karabakh remains unrecognized. Its main part is under Armenia's control, but Azerbaijan still considers Nagorno-Karabakh part of its territory. In time, the refugees managed to settle down in their new homes.
I remember the time when we arrived here. We lived in poor conditions. There were 2 families to a house, but we believed that we would get help. I want to thank the country for providing us with a good home.
Hello.
Hello.
Did you buy it?
Even though most refugees have managed to settle down, they still hope to return home someday.
No matter how good it may be here, our homeland is there. It's always better for a person to be where he was born. I miss my homeland. Despite the fact that 20 years have passed, I'm ready to return there right now.
The Nagorno-Karabakh conflict was frozen in 1994 after the 2 sides signed a ceasefire.
When Aydar Aliyev came to power, peaceful negotiations started and Aliyev managed to secure a ceasefire. President Aliyev also tried to resolve the conflict peacefully.
The negotiations between Azerbaijan and Armenia are still ongoing with the help of Russia, but the parties have not yet signed a peace treaty on Nagorno-Karabakh. The Nakhichevan Autonomous Republic is 600 kilometers to the west of Baku. One can only get to this Azerbaijani enclave surrounded by other countries by plane. The highway across Armenia has been closed, while traveling there via Iran is far too long and expensive. The Nakhichevan Autonomous Republic is located in the southern part of the Transcaucasus. It is a landlocked Azerbaijani enclave bordering Armenia, Turkey and Iran. The republic's population amounts to 400,000 people. The republic is actively trading with Iran and Turkey. Archaeologists say that the republic's capital of Nakhichevan is one of the oldest cities in the east. The first mention of the city dates back to 1539 BC. Former president of Azerbaijan, Gaydar Aliyev, was born here. There is a street, a square and a museum in his honor.
Haydar Aliyev and his son Ilham were always together. Her father was his advisor. Ilham followed in his footsteps.
In 2003, shortly before his death, Gaydar Aliyev removed his candidacy from the presidential list in favor of his son Ilham. Not far from Aliyev's family estate is situated one of Islam's most sacred places, Ashrafi Kyaf. It is even mentioned in the Quran. Thousands of pilgrims from many countries come here to pray.
Lots of people visit this shrine. They want to feel close to Allah. People make their wishes here and ask God to make them come true.
The keeper of the old city is coming from Baku up to northern Azerbaijan. He is to meet with archaeologist Ilyas Babayev, who has made a number of important discoveries.
Hello. Hello. We heard you found some new things. Can you show them to us?
We are always finding new things.
Ilyas Babayev is conducting an excavation in the ancient city of Gabala. The city used to be the capital of Caucasian Albania, a state that emerged on Azerbaijan's territory in the 4th century BC.
This is a burial site. Who was this man?
This man was a citizen of Gabala. I don't know what he did. We know he was a Christian, as he is buried in accordance with Christian rites.
Could I say this man is my ancestor?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Artifacts found in Gabala could be similar to those in the ancient Baku fortress. Archaeologists are sure that people have lived here since the Bronze Age. Ancient people living on the territory of Azerbaijan were particularly respectful towards fire, a source of light and heat. Plumes of gas have been burning here for centuries. There is a place not far from Baku, which is called Burning Mountain. Its slope is covered with eternal flames. But it is not only land that burns in Azerbaijan. The temperature of the water underneath the ground can reach 70 degrees. It is used for treating people.
It's a miracle of nature. There's nothing like it anywhere else in the world. Our country is called the land of fire. Even our water burns because it contains a lot of sulfur. This water can treat many illnesses, particularly bone diseases like osteoporosis.
Tea plantations can be found 300 kilometers to the south from Baku, near the Iranian border. Not far from the city of Lenkoran are 5 hectares of land belonging to farmer Ilyas Aliyev. His family has been in the tea business for 50 years now.
So now we start gathering tea. Please make sure that the tea leaves comply with the set standards.
Tea growing in the south of Azerbaijan is a priority industry. According to local scientists, the tea grown on this land is chemically different to other kinds of tea. It contains lots of tannin, essential oils, and caffeine.
The tea growing process requires a lot of effort, including irrigation and fertilizers. It's an industrial crop, and the final product depends on how well it has been taken care of.
After they're collected, the tea leaves are processed at the factory. Once the leaves are dried, they're sorted again by hand. The result is different sorts of tea.
We collect the 3 most tender leaves from the top of each plant. We then use those leaves to make a bouquet. And now, as you can see, I'm in the process of sorting the leaves. After they're processed, the tea will be packed and is then ready to be drunk.
The village of Sarai on the outskirts of Baku. The family of famous carpet weaver Minaver Aliyeva drinks Azerbaijani tea every day. Even though she is 91 years old, she still remembers weaving carpets that were given as presents to Kremlin officials.
As you can see, we covered the teapot with a towel. It comes out stronger that way. A very good mix. Thanks to that, this tea can help with stomach or respiratory problems. The important thing, though, is that it gives you energy and puts you in a good mood.
Minaver is grandmother of the family. She is passing on her knowledge of carpets to her grandchildren and their children. Minaver's 10-year-old granddaughter, Rakshanda Agayeva, also wants to weave Azerbaijani carpets when she's older. But right now, she's still a beginner.
Have a seat, grandmother.
Azerbaijani carpets are different from all other kinds of carpets in color. They are produced differently too.
In the old times, Azerbaijani carpets were called solid gold and priced accordingly. Even today, the price of some handmade carpets can be as high as several $1,000s.
Thread the needle here.
Did I do it right?
Thread the needle and pull it down.
Nowadays, citizens of Azerbaijan's capital enjoy walking by the city's seafront. From one side, you can see the old fortress. From the other, oil platforms in the Caspian Sea. Here, the past and the present have merged together fluidly.